As a high-concept sports comedy starring Jake Johnson, produced by Ben Stiller, and centered on the explosive, court-stealing modern phenomenon of pickleball, managed to entirely abandon its namesake sport for the entire middle hour of the film. You walk in expecting the absurd, high-octane energy of Dodgeball, but what you actually get is a surprisingly gentle, subversively strange romance that trades slapstick rallies for May-December relational stakes. Today, we're unpacking whether this pivot is a stroke of narrative subversion or just a script that lost its grip on the paddle. Hit that like button, subscribe, and let's get into The Dink. The Dink follows Dusty the Hammer Boyd, a disgraced former tennis prodigy forced to coach kids at his father's failing country club. Desperate to earn his father's elusive respect, Dusty must swallow his elite tennis pride, break a sacred personal vow, and pick up a pickleball paddle to win a high-stakes tournament. It presents itself as an aggressive underdog sports spoof targeting the real-life country club turf wars between tennis snobs and suburban picklers, but underneath that broad 2000 studio comedy packaging lies a much slower, surprisingly low-key character study about letting go of toxic athletic ego. I've always heard that there was this niche sort of culture war surrounding tennis players and picklers, and I think that is prime real estate for a great comedy. But if you're expecting like Dodgeball style rapid fire training montages, you're not going to get it with this. It's more, surprisingly gentle, low-key character piece. But funny enough, the pickleball aspect kind of disappears in the middle of this movie, which is not entirely a bad thing. Jake Johnson really holds up this film. He's got this specific charm, like a classic, grounded, slightly unhinged slacker energy, but with some real emotional weight to it, balancing the absurdity of that washed-up pro taking a local pickleball way too seriously with genuine melancholy over his failed tennis career. But I want to have to say the MVP of this is Aaron Chen as PJ. He is hilarious in this. He's sort of like the assistant to Jake Johnson's character, who worships Jake Johnson's character, and he operates on this completely different, brilliantly deadpan comedic frequency.
Achievements are all actually Dusty's.
I'm struggling to connect those dots.
Maybe you need to go to dot connecting lessons.
Nice burn.
He's so good in this, in fact, that anytime PJ wasn't on screen, I'm like, where's PJ at? We need PJ in this. So I was talking about how the pickleball kind of disappears in the middle of it. It's because the film kind of shifts gears into this May-December romance between Dusty, Jake Johnson, and his older doubles partner, Candace, played by Mary Steenburgen. This isn't like sort of relationship I ever see in film, really. Like the much older woman with a younger guy. There's probably like a 20 or 30 year difference between them. And where it ends up was not where I was expecting, and it was a good surprise. And the movie treats it with actual sincerity rather than turning it into like a cheap, crude punchline. It's really rare to see a studio comedy explore this specific dynamic without drowning it in like vulgar tropes. And this has quite a cast to it. I mean, you've got Ed Harris. He's like the strict tennis-obsessed father. And like I said before, Mary Steenburgen. They look like they're having a good time, but fundamentally, they're operating on cruise control in the acting department. They provide like a reliable veteran presence, but neither really pushing beyond the baseline archetype expectations. But again, this is a comedy straight to streaming, so I guess I can't hate on him too much for that. And Ben Stiller, he produced this through Red Hour Films, intentionally signaled like a passing of the baton to Jake Johnson's character. Sort of like the same sports satire DNA that made Dodgeball a huge hit like 2 decades ago. He has a role in this. He plays Dr. Stone as a fun, self-aware nod to his era of absurd sports comedy. And it's written by Sean Clements, who is known for Workaholics and Hollywood Handbook. His alt comedy background explains why the dialogue often strays into like bizarre, highly specific tangents rather than traditional studio punchlines. And it was very funny. I found it funny throughout, but with a lot of heart. You also have the U.S. Open champion Andy Roddick as a hyper-petulant, fictionalized version of himself and Chuck's main antagonist. But I liked some of the stuff this touched upon. I mean, I think the movie sort of functions as a anti-redemption arc. Dusty learns that clinging on to the peak potential you missed out on at 18 will ruin your 30-something existence. I mean, in tennis, he is known as the hammer, but he has to lightly drop a ball over a low net in pickleball, which is like a physical metaphor for letting go of toxic masculine pride. And they touch upon some class, privilege, and generational gatekeeping in this, if you kind of really think about it. You got tennis in the film represents rigid old money elitism, exclusive and formal. Pickleball acts as a populist disruptor, highly accessible, age-inclusive, and intentionally democratic. It argues that clinging to the tradition of its own sake is just slow-motion decay. And also, not just like the romance part of it, but the relationship between Dusty and Candace kind of subverts the usual tropes. Instead of the washed-up young pro saving the older amateur, Candace teaches Dusty how to slow down, communicate, and play with emotional finesse rather than brute physical dominance. So the Dink isn't going to dethrone Kingpin, and it doesn't have the relentless, iconic gag density of Dodgeball. It's a structurally eccentric, slightly uneven streaming comedy that survives largely on the charm of Jake Johnson, a brilliant breakout turn from Aaron Chen, and a middle-act romantic detour that proves much sweeter than a pickleball movie has any right to be. It's an easy, low-stakes weekend stream that succeeds by not taking itself or its sport too seriously. So I'm giving The Dink a 3 out of 5. But what did you think of The Dink? What's your favorite sports comedy? Let me know down in the comments below. If you like this video, hit that like button and consider subscribing. If you want to support the channel a little further, hit that join button down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.